We're ranking tight ends in Dynasty Fantasy Football. Let me know your number one tight end, your tier one. For me, it's two guys. In tier one, I've got Sam Laporta, Brock Bowers. I don't think it's as controversial as maybe some of you may believe with this tier at the top, with Sam Laporta, with Brock Bowers. Look, I'll reintroduce my 4Ps: production, projection, of course, perspective, perception, and perception, especially in this offseason. All this time leading up to the draft and then training camp, leading up to then the start of the actual football being played, perception is going to dominate. Perception will dominate the overwhelming, pervading thoughts about these players. And it can't get any higher with these two. But perception, obviously, it only goes so far. The production, you look at what Sam Laporta just did in a very crowded Detroit Lions offensive room, relatively speaking. You got the RBs. You got Amon-Ra, a bona fide wide receiver one. You even got Jameson Williams in there to kind of shake things up. But this is about Sam Laporta and what he did, the season he put out there. A top two, pretty much tight end one level production in all of fantasy in his rookie year. Incredible situation. Just checking off all the boxes with Sam Laporta. And I considered maybe putting him in a tier of his own, but honestly, I can't with Brock Bowers. Brock Bowers coming into the league, you think about his profile, and I've following NFL draft industry discourse, which I love to do, and especially as dynasty players, as fantasy players, you need to be doing right now at this time of year in the build-up. So you're just at, or at least ahead of the curve in some way, shape, or form, ahead of your rookie drafts. But anyway, with Brock Bowers specifically, some talk with Daniel Jeremiah, one of the best, if not one of the best in the biz. He talked about, well, for as blue chipper of a prospect as Brock Bowers is, and the top 5, top 10 lock draft capital that you believe, potentially maybe some room for slippage because of just the fact that relative to other positions, there's not necessarily the contract value discount that you're getting at the tight end position. But then on the flip side of the coin, which I lend myself to, make the argument, look, you look beyond an arbitrary label like tight end. Brock Bowers just is a pass-catching weapon, a focal point of your offense that you just want to have and utilize. You think about maybe the shortcomings. Look, at a 6'3", 6'4"-ish, 230, 240-ish for the physical profile, look, he's not his teammate Darnell Washington, right? Or the Rob Gronkowski, right? And guys that you think are just complete stalwarts, in the blocking aspect of things, which not to say Brock Bowers is any slouch in that sense, but if anything, why not look at the relatively slighter frame at the tight end position? It's just more receiving upside. He's more of a athlete. He's quicker, faster. He's got multiple plays in college. He just breakaway speed. Brock Bowers has that capability, and that in fantasy is incredible, and especially at this position, invaluable, to say the least, honestly. Arbitrary terms, we love to use them, we love to frame things in certain ways, and obviously we're ranking tight ends, but especially with Brock Bowers, you think what he is, maybe not as a tight end in terms of the physical profile. He's a big slot, he's a bigger receiver, he's a freak of nature, and I have to recognize him here at the tier 1, tight end 2 overall. And honestly, we'll see where he goes. If he goes as high to the Chargers, he's my tight end 1 easily in Dynasty. You look at what Greg Roman has done repeatedly as a coordinator, as a guy in charge of the offense, and how much he targets the tight end position. And obviously, look, Harbaugh, of course, at the helm, but it's that marriage of those two ideas, that familiarity of those coach and coordinator, and the potential opportunity that Brock Bowers could walk himself into. You look at just Mark Andrews, his best years. Well, Greg Roman was feeding him them targets, designing him that way. So that's my tier 1. Really got to be just excited about having either of these guys, but as you would be with the 4 in tier 2. And in tier 2, I've got TJ Hawkinson, Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, and Mark Andrews, aforementioned. With these guys, could they very well break into tier 1? Absolutely, sure. For me, though, I can't quite put him in there for one reason or another. with TJ Hawkinson. You think about the age tax, 4 years plus on these two guys that are ahead of him in tier one, and combine that with the ACL injury, with the lower body injury. Maybe I got the ACL, MCL, PCL, UCL. It's some CL, right? Some serious injury, which, look, I have more confidence than not that he, of course, rebounds, returns to form, maybe not so immediately, but couple that with just the Vikings, the Minnesota situation in general. Is Kirk Cousins coming back? If he doesn't, is it really reasonable to expect the incredible targets and the rate at which he gets them with the Kirk Cousins-led offense? I don't know. Just some interesting factors working maybe against TJ Hawkinson relatively to the two guys at the top, but he's still an incredible option, and I love me some TJ Hawkinson. And potential maybe value if within your leagues people don't maybe rank him amongst these other 4 or 5 guys. Trey McBride. Look, talk about age, production. He's really got that. And he's in a situation in Arizona, which, look, Jonathan Gannon, as an Eagles fan, coming from that tree, and just the sheer rate which the Arizona Cardinals also targeted the tight end position amongst top 3 in all of the league, some 30-odd%. So things are really pointing upward for Trey McBride, and I really do like him. And I think this is by no means a slight or a disrespect, having him as my tight end 4 overall here in tier 2. And I want to just reintroduce with the 4P model: production, projection, perspective, perception, and just the tiers itself. These are fine margins, guys. These are fine margins. It's ultimately, I would have to receive a premium to move off of the tier above into the tier below, right? So just in keeping with that narrative, but more or less, it's not a hard, fast price from tier to tier to tier, right? So it's all a very, very subjective, very delicate game, very delicate art of trading, right? But with Trey McBride, excuse me, I've got him here at tight end 4. And ultimately, look, I think he's going to be at a tight end top 10, top 5 for the near future, for the foreseeable future. But I think about maybe the identity of that Arizona Cardinals offense and just the piece of the pie, not really any room for expansion, maybe some restriction with the potential Marvin Harrison, Malik Neighbors walking in there and assuming a huge chunk of that offense. So some of my rationale there for Trey McBride, where I have him. But I have him, look, ahead of like Dalton Kincaid, who's in, talk about situation and for the long haul, look, connected to Josh Allen down there in Buffalo, and really can't get any better. You think of situation, right, on the surface. And with Dalton Kincaid, look, in and around 100 targets. Pretty solid rookie year. Put himself in this top 5 tight end conversation, which, again, it's no slouch. It's no disrespect with Kincaid. I just can't put him into tier 1 as I can't with Mark Andrews. Talk about the beginning and end of this tier. TJ Hawkinson, Mark Andrews, guys that are a little bit up there in age, but shouldn't be overlooked too much. With Andrews, 2 more years minimum there in Baltimore. Returned after a pretty significant looking injury, returned to the playoffs, and is there to stay. You know what you can get with a healthy Mark Andrews and a healthy Lamar Jackson. So I have to recognize him here in tier 2. The end of this tier, the beginning of the next, pretty controversial. Maybe you'll come shouting at me down in the comments below. Where do you have these 2 players? Where do you have Travis Kelce and Kyle Pitts? Travis Kelce, Kyle Pitts, really an interesting tier of 2 here. But with Travis Kelce, I don't know how you guys have found it within your leagues, but look, if you have Travis Kelce, you're probably best served just holding on to him. No one's really coming to you paying a ridiculous price right? Paying a premium for a guy that is a game breaker at the position, could very well just break his own records, right? In any given year, any given season. He's up there. Talk about guys that are up there in age, though. He is up there. His brother Jason, my guy Jason Kelsey, as a Birds fan, assumed to be retired, although he still hasn't an official announcement, unless I'm living under a rock. Seemingly up in the air, and the only reason I mention that is because some people were of the thought, oh, they're going to retire. The Kelsey brothers are just going to retire together, ride off into the new heights, sunset, as full-time podcasters and media, studio desks, whatever, what have it be. But with Travis, look, you said it, obviously impassioned, right after the big Super Bowl win. I'm running it back. I want to go for the three-peat, and he's going to have Travis, or he's going to have himself. He's going to have himself. Maybe still Taylor Swift there. I don't know, but he's going to have Pat Mahomes. He's going to have Andy Reid, and that's good enough for me for one season at least. One season, Travis Kelsey. I gotta respect him. You gotta respect him here, and it's almost I really wanted to make it a tier of himself, a tier of his own, so to speak. But with Kyle Pitts, he's got a new situation. He's got a new situation. And yeah, he wasn't a total slouch last year in Atlanta. Arthur Smith, though, is gone. But I'm more of a glass half full. You've got Zach Robinson, Raheem Morris, the Rams, some Rams guys coming in to Atlanta. And I think, look, I listened to just the press conferences. I listened to Zach Robinson. I am a glass half full guy with Kyle Pitts for what that might mean for his future. Just even a potential return to his rookie year form, the rookie year top 10 at the position firmly. I have to just hold on to some hope with Kyle Pitts. Call me crazy, but again, I think in some sense, the perception baseline is just still there, and the production, really more over the projection, I think very well looks to be there. With tight ends, you want guys that are potential explosive players, week to week, year to year. Guys that can really put up a number. And with Kyle Pitts, call me crazy, call me a Pitts apologist here. I don't even have a share of Pitts. I'll be honest. I've been looking to acquire a share of Kyle Pitts for a while. But I believe in him and what potentially lies for his future in Atlanta. Considered again, maybe he's in his own tier in some degree, right? The Pitts tier. But I have to just recognize him here in tier 3. And let me know, guys, where are you at through these first 3 tiers? My hit, my miss, so to speak, is somebody totally off base? Am I totally drinking the Kyle Pitts, the Atlanta Kool-Aid? I don't know. I don't think so. I don't believe that. I just have to honor Kyle Pitts for what he continues to be, a dynasty darling, a guy that people are just going to talk themselves, whether rational or not, talk themselves into. And we'll see, right? This is kind of the last hurrah. I think Kyle Pitts has got to show something this year, but I'm not going to totally bet against him. That's just my spiel here. In tier 4, this is a very jumbled tier. Tier 4, we're talking about guys that are frankly tight end ones that I have some peace of mind relative to the guys below them. And just year to year, depending on the premium, depending on your league format, right, how much the tight end position is truly valued, they're guys that I feel fine. Just set it in the lineup, sit back, set it and sit it. So starting off with Jake Ferguson, and again, tiers inherently preferential. I can understand sort of any order within a tier, but with Jake Ferguson, I look at the situation in Dallas, and I just like what is in store for his career. I like what's in store being in an offense with Dak. You got CD. I think that's sort of the trio. It'll be interesting to see, though, with the running back position, though. Tony Pollard, what maybe happens there. But nonetheless, I like Jake Ferguson personally, what his future holds. I think firmly look, a tight end one level production. And look, given the age for the short, mid, foreseeable future, give me some Jake Ferguson. David Njoku, up there, 27, a little bit older than Jake Ferguson, than Cole Kmet. But David Njoku, man, I feel like continues to be a little bit overlooked. Goes under the radar. Puts in very good seasons. Considerable amount of targets. 120 and change. Gets the opportunity. Converts on the opportunities. Gives you the production. David Njoku, really just the most overlooked player at the position, I would say. Maybe in Dynasty, it feels like in some ways. Just a solid producer. I see potential new contract, foreseeable future. He's got Dynasty value. Cole Kmet. We'll see. I'm 99% sure he's going to have a new quarterback, right, in the form of Caleb Williams. And with Shane Waldron coming from Seattle, maybe not an incredible history of targeting the tight end position. Caleb Williams as well down in there in USC, not really a player of note at the tight end position as a tendency of relative focus for as far as the target share goes. But with Cole Kmet, a guy that, again, he's just putting out top 10 seasons at the position. And given the age, why not make a bet? Why not make a bet on him? Pretty safe bet to make. You feel comfortable about Cole Kmet, Ferguson, and Njoku, as you do George Kittle, given he's in the 49ers offense. The 49ers offense, we know what it is. If anything, maybe less a Brandon Ayuk or Deebo Samuel. The pie, look, for a 30-plus-year-old George Kittle, it's still going to be there for him. I just don't see how they could move off of George Kittle. He's a captain. He's there in San Fran for the rest of his career, I feel like, personally. Let me know if you guys agree with that. But I got to have George Kittle here in Tier 4, as with Evan Ingram. Evan Ingram, look, talk about consistent guy at the position. A top high-end tight end one season. Talk about a guy that gets targets. He's up there in all of the NFL. And I look, he's there for, I think, at least another year in Jacksonville. Doug Peterson, he's there for at least another year as head coach. You know what you're going to be able to get with Evan Ingram, a guy that seems like tight end 10 is the floor. 12-team league, tight end 12. A low-end tight end 1 is seemingly the floor with Evan Ingram. Athletic guy, after the catch ability, especially in the Jacksonville situation where I don't know what's going to happen in that receiver room. I don't think they keep Calvin Ridley, honestly. And then you've just got really Christian Kirk. You got Parker Washington, right? Really, I mean, if anything, you could see a path to more targets, to more production for Evan Ingram this upcoming year. And so, firmly in this Tier 4. As for me, look, maybe a little bit of a hot take, but Pat Freiermuth. Pat Freiermuth here in Tier 4. I look at Arthur Smith coming from Atlanta, and who just targeted the tight end position most. And it's funny as we say this because given, we just talked about Kyle Pitts, and, he didn't go out there, put up a unbelievable fantasy productive season. But he was in a tight end room that got targeted the most relatively across the NFL. And so Arthur Smith now, he's going to Pittsburgh. And Pat Freiermuth, he is the guy. I don't know if we're going to see maybe a Pittsburgh version of Jonnu Smith. Not quite sure that. Maybe that's Darnell Washington. Maybe Darnell Washington takes a step up. But I got to be of the mindset, Pat Freiermuth, he pretty solid, consistent when healthy. So health, a little bit of a concern there, but Have to put him here in tier 4 because I feel pretty comfortable with him as a tight end 1. If you have him on your roster, cool. You feel somewhat good about it. As you do, and I think you should, with Dallas Goedert, Dalton Schultz. With Goddard, I feel like he's getting a little bit of a bad rap. The perception, the stench around, the whole Eagles situation, all the Eagles fantasy players in general just kind of push a little bit down. Let me take a step back, which I can understand. I can understand a larger sentiment, but not trying to be too reactionary, trying to just be anticipatory, proactive, forward-looking. You've got a new OC there in Kellen Moore, who's really, I think, going to be a bit of a deviation from maybe what the Eagles offense has looked like with Nick Sirianni. Just a fresh start, a blank slate, a clean slate. And with Goddard, he had a fluke injury with a broken arm that sidelined him for several weeks. So, look, when healthy, he is a feature point of the Eagles offense. And I think will be recognized as such by Kellen Moore. And you look at Kellen Moore's history as the OC previously down there in Dallas. A pretty notable year, a top quarter of the league in terms of targeting the tight end position. So Kellen Moore has a history of that. And so I have to recognize Dallas Goedert here. Have to. Dalton Schultz. I'm of the mindset that he stays there in Houston and Houston re-signs him. That's where I'm leaning. That's where I'm situated. And I just look at interviews CJ Stroud has done in the past. He's made comments about Dalton Schultz specifically. It just seems like they've got a connection. And why disrupt? Why rock the boat of what your franchise quarterback, MVP in his rookie year-esque type of season? Why disrupt the boat there? So, we've got to have Dalton Schultz here rounding out tier 4 for me. Let me know if you guys dislike Dalton Schultz. I think, again, look, it's like you know what you're going to get. You know what you're going to get in tier 4 here. Tight end ones for fantasy. Tight ends ones in NFL offenses. So, I think that's kind of my short, sweet, kind of dumbed down, simplified version of this tier. And this is the most jumbled tier, in my view, in across the position. Because as we get into tier 5 here, tier 5, I've got 5 guys. Just a coincidence there. Solid restaurant. But now I'm getting myself hungry here. We have Jatavian Sanders, Michael Mayer, Cade Otton, the Packers guys, Luke Musgrave, and Tucker Kraft. With Jatavian Sanders, I can very well see, with situation with the draft capital, could very well see him being firmly in that tier 4 conversation. Maybe higher, depending on if he gets that. Maybe he's a Chargers day 2 pick. That would be very intriguing. Very intriguing. And you look, again, Jatavian Sanders, really have to recognize him. I know you see quite a gap between tight end 1, tight end 2 of this class. And I don't think it's any direct slight against Jatavian Sanders. It's just more of how special I view Brock Bowers. But with Jatavian Sanders, look, you're talking about a guy that's also a very good athlete at the position. Really interested to see what he does at the combine. Maybe to just only strengthen that profile and that steam for top 50 draft capital and potentially a top 12 tight end at the position. We'll see. I see on Keep Trade Cut now, man. He's in that tight end 20 range. That's just atrocious. As speaking of Keep Trade Cut, I mean, just caution. Not anything directly against Keep Trade Cut, but I guess against just the rankings. And look, the psychology, maybe you or I, anybody that goes in to rank that. With Jatavian Sanders, and then even, I made a tweet about it. Check out Dynasty Psych. Same handle. Same as this YouTube. Rome Odunze, tight end 22? Or receiver 22? Just some crazy, I think, arbitrage opportunities, so to speak. Fancy word there for just opportunities to recoup value. If you're for some reason drafting now, or if you can trade for players, if you're in Devy or Campus to Canton type leagues, Roma Dunze, Jatavian Sanders, man. But speaking with tight ends, Jatavian Sanders, that aside, pardon that tangent there, but Jatavian, really good athlete, could very well walk into a tight end one role in an NFL offense. I could see it. But I have him here in this tier 5, which isn't a slouch tier by any means. I want to make that clear. I don't think it's any. This is relatively decent company. We're talking upside plays with Michael Mayer. Man, it hurts me to put him here. Would have thought he would have been firmly in like tier 2, honestly. You think about maybe compared to expectations. But it's just, I don't know. We'll see. The whole Raiders, they like Austin Hooper. Does he fit? Does Austin Hooper figure to be there for next year or for the foreseeable future? I don't know. But it's just a lot of question marks in that Raiders offense. And if you want to make a bet, go ahead. But Michael Mayer, just really scarce production. Not what you really wanted to see in year 1. But can't quite give up on him. Here. He's in this sort of upside tier, young tier, so to speak. Cade Otton, put in a tight end, mid tight end 2 type of season production. I think, look, he's going to get Baker Mayfield again. So I think he's got that tight end 1 of the Bucs kind of locked down. Don't really see the true game-breaking play, right? But he's a solid guy. I think a solid floor play, right? With some upside, but a guy that, let's be honest, I don't see breaking ahead of tier 4 anytime soon, right? No disrespect, Cade. I consider myself semi-familiar with your game, but go ahead and prove us wrong, man. Maybe this is a motivation, but no disrespect meant there. But rounding out this tier with Musgrave and Kraft, I've got to put both of these guys in here because honestly, for me, it's a little bit like the jury is still out with who might be that Packers tight end 1 to me. Maybe to you, it's not. Maybe to you, it's clearly Luke Musgrave, clearly got the better draft capital and initial early role beginning of the season. But Matt LaFleur, look, he even said it. Tucker Kraft made as much of a leap as a rookie as he's ever seen at any position over the course of that season. And they're definitely different flavors. Tucker Kraft is more of the traditional kind of do-it-all in some way, shape, or form tight end. Luke Musgrave is that attractive, sexy, receiving, quick option, big slot guy that you want to kind of manufacture some touches for in that sense. But I don't know. I don't know where Matt LaFleur, it's kind of a tough read there in Green Bay for me. And I've got to just put both these guys here, rounding out the bottom of tier 5. Let me know if you guys view them in a similar light. I mean, I certainly do. I can't with conviction say, I can't pick one. I can't pick one at this point. So that's kind of who I've got rounding out this tier 5 of some upside, some floor, just more or less some guys that are young that figure to be relevant tight ends for the foreseeable future, right? So tier 6, rounding out last but not least, but actually least certainly in the hierarchy here. This is a really weird tier. I got to be honest. And it's guys that have still some relevance, I would say, for varying shapes and sizes. But I've got to start with Isaiah Likely. I've seen him and talk about keep trade cut, preparing this video, just kind of using some references, getting a feel for maybe community sentiments. Tight end 16, a fringe top 15 tight end. We like Isaiah Likely. Is he likely to score a touchdown or get considerable targets each week in an offense with Mark Andrews for 2 more years? And look, they're both on that kind of 2-year contract remaining timeline for both those Baltimore tight ends. Look, I don't think he's so likely to be a relevant tight end 1. Look, he looked great with the end of the year, but that was without Mark Andrews. That was with Mark Andrews when he had the lower body injury, and then he returns for the playoffs. Isaiah Likely, don't see how you can put him in a top 15 conversation at the position. I don't see it. I don't see it. And because I just don't see him. I think we have to just almost resign ourselves to the fact that he's there in Baltimore for, at least the 2 more years. So, and as is Mark Andrews. And I don't see the team, the Ravens, I don't see them eager to, offload him to somewhere else where he could be this potential tight end one. I just think, they like him. They have a good room, 2 guys that they like and will utilize. Sure. But for fantasy relevance, I just have to put Isaiah Likely down here at the top of tier 6, If you were to somehow find a new home, totally different conversation. But being there jointly with one of the top 5, 6 options at the position, come on. Darren Waller, he's here holding on to some dear hope with him in the sense maybe of some other guys I've ranked in varying tiers. But with Waller, look, he's up there in age. He really is having a hard time getting on the field even. But when he's there, some upside, right? Some upside, some sense of hope from a fantasy context. A dynamic, a good weapon at the position. Versatile weapon, quote unquote. Shout out to Bengal if you know, you know. But Darren Waller, I hope he really rebounds and has a healthy season full of great production for him, not for the Giants. I'm not hoping good for the Giants. I want to make that clear as an Eagles fan, but it would be nice. It would just be nice to see a nice Darren Waller season. But it's just pure speculation at this point, right? It's tough to say, man. Those prime Raiders Waller seasons, man. That's, man, just the good old days, right? If only we knew when we were at the Andy quote from The Office, right? If only there was a way to know we were in the good days before they ended, something like that. I'm butchering quotes, just a wordsmith right away with words here, as I'm clearly in this video. But Greg Dulcich here behind Darren Waller. Look, it's another guy, just didn't play. Didn't find his way onto the field, which in some sense, look, maybe I'm low. Maybe that just screams opportunity for you guys to buy low on these guys and project. But with Greg Dulcich, man, it's a precarious situation there in Denver with Sean Payton, and just in the sense that, look, Greg Dulcich didn't get with the new head coach. He didn't really get a chance to make a statement. So I kind of just make a name for himself on the field or prove anything. So it kind of, for me, it leaves a little bit of a door open for them to pick. Maybe they pick a Jatavian Sanders, right? Maybe they go and sign somebody. So that's just kind of where I'm at with Greg Dulcich. Let me know if you guys are any hot, significantly higher in the comments in terms of Greg Dulcich, to be clear. But that's where I've got him. I think it's a fair value. Brevin Jordan, I have to mention him here because of the chance. This is on the chance that maybe Dalton Schultz somehow isn't resigned by the Houston Texans. So then it's Brevin Jordan, next man up. And if that would be the case, man, Brevin Jordan being that tight end one in that offense. And look, we saw some explosive plays end of the season playoffs, right? Very attractive, very spicy. So if that happens, then Brevin Jordan clearly make the case. All right, tier 5 minimum. But assuming, look, all signs in my view, I believe Dalton Schultz is there in Houston. So again, it's like, look, Brevin Jordan, it's kind of in the Isaiah Likely sort of dilemma. There's just a guy in front of you, and you're surely valued. You bring value to the NFL team, but to our fantasy rosters, I don't know. And then holding on to some hope. Look, a new coach, kind of maybe a fresh start, maybe a blank slate with Chig Okonkwo. We'll see. But if anything, I think we've learned he's just kind of like he's a nice piece, right? Nice, a complimentary guy, right? He's not going to be leading the team in targets, or really maybe even be up in the top 2 in terms of just weapons, right? And you look at Callahan, the Bengals, they kind of just almost makeshift tight end room. Tanner Hudson, Drew Sample, just weird history there at the position. So Chigakonkwo, we'll see. The guy feels like I gotta mention him. If you guys let me know if you're his number one fan in the comments. But speaking of a guy that kind of, in my view, compares to Chigakonkwo in Jaheim Bell, rounding out himself and another rookie in Cade Stover, we'll get to obviously just at the end of this video. But with Jaheim Bell, he's a smaller guy at the position like Chig. He just is given the stature, given the, he's a nice gadget player. Just don't see the true volume, right? Don't see the true volume ever being there. But if used right, if in their best, if in an ideal situation where he's got, some schemed targets and he's got a good system, he's got a good quarterback to throw him the ball. It's a good, well-oiled machine. We'll see. We'll see. But just a guy I got to mention there with Jaheim Bell. And then rounding out, Cade Stover as well. Cade Stover, he's more of, your bigger physical tight end who does offer some, I think, receiving upside. I think he does offer some in that sense. Just really kind of a mystery with both this tight end 3 and Bell and tight end 4 with Stover. We'll see where they go in the draft. We'll see. If they 3 top 100, that would be awesome. That would be incredible. But I don't know. I'm not so confident, so sold on that necessarily. So that's just kind of my rationale with running out with tight end 3 and 4 this rookie class. Tight end 1 and 2 with Bowers and Sanders. Incredible. Awesome. Very appealing. Very attractive assets for the tight end position. As quite a few guys. It's almost feels to me like the tight end position, it's never quite, based on sheer numbers, it's never quite going to get to the same level of the receiver, right? Just based on, one tight end in an offense normally, right? Unless 12 personnel, right? It depends, but you think of one tight end, and then there might be 1, 2, 3 receivers that are relevant in the offense. But I think the message being the tight end landscape is looking pretty good. It's looking pretty good for fantasy. If you have a tier 1, tier 2 guy, awesome. Looking to pretty much hold on to him. If you got a tier 3 guy, if you got Kelsey and Pitts, kind of a similar deal. And so it just begs the question, I make these tiers, but how much of a true price, a premium, are you really going to pay, right? Going up the tiers. And for me, it's, maybe throwing out rookie picks, right? Rookie picks. And then your league format. How many starters? So there's all a delicate balance to this, right? It's a delicate balance to this all with the tiers. I've ranked them best, my opinion, my view. You guys can say it sucks. Let me know in the comments. Maybe I got somebody right. Maybe I got one player right. Maybe I got everybody else wrong. But this is just an exercise, me providing some perspective for you all. Tail me, fade me for your life, at your own risk, at your own reward. With that being said, guys, thank you, as always, for watching. We're wrapping up a Friday. Have a great weekend. We're on the road to 1K by draft day. Subs, I know it's a lofty, insane goal, but we're just kicking it into really 5th, 28th gear here. So have a great weekend, guys. I will see you in the next one.